Hello and welcome to the Bigger Than Us podcast. Today I'd like to welcome Alex Reed to the show. Alex is the co founder and CMO of Truman's. Truman's is a US based company that offers eco friendly household cleaning products to safely clean virtually every hard surface in your home. Now, you might be asking, why are we having a cleaning product company on the podcast and how is it relevant? Well, you'll soon find out why. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited to be here and chatting with you.
Thank you so much, Alex. Alex, I'd like to start the show off with something interesting about you that most people would not be aware of.
Yeah, that's an interesting question because, when you start to get to a certain age, you wonder, what's the most interesting thing that's happened to me? There's a lot of unexpected twists and turns in life. And one of the things that I feel like is particularly relevant to the company that I co-founded this year, Truman's, was that when I was a child, I was actually able to get into some medicine in my parents' medicine cabinet and unscrew a childproof lid. And it was fairly traumatic for them. I was too young to remember the specifics, but ended up getting rushed to the ER, having my stomach pumped. It was not a great experience, but things like that, now that I'm a father of my own children, things like that have really shaped my perspective on the products that I allow into my home, how they're stored, how they're used. And I think that's an important consideration when you're running a business is what are these impacts, whether they're intended or unintended, that you're having on homes and consumers. So that was something that was a very important early moment in my life that's shaped some of my thinking.
Must have been quite traumatic for your parents. I know as a parent myself, my oldest daughter once swallowed a penny and we took her to the ER and had that x-ray and that was traumatic enough. So I couldn't imagine having her taken and having the stomach pumped.
Yeah, anytime you have kids, I mean, every scrape and bruise is scarier than the next, but you're always trying to do what you can to protect them, and sometimes things happen, and that's why I'm excited to be in a position where we can produce a product that we feel good about using in homes with pets, with children, and that are going to be safe and good for the environment as well.
Yeah, and you did briefly answer it, but I'd like to double down on that question a little bit about why is your current endeavor so important to you?
Yeah, I think, for one, I'll start with the selfish reason. Um, I wanted to do something meaningful with my career. I'm a marketer by trade, but I'm also a product guy, and I really like being involved in companies and products and brands that are doing something that I feel like positively contribute to homes, businesses, society, whatever it may be.
Hmm.
And so that really drove me into this space because I felt like there was a lot of opportunity in the cleaning industry to improve. Secondarily, I felt like there is a big issue environmentally that is so multifaceted that it can't just be attacked at the individual level. It can't be attacked at the government level. It can't be attacked at the private sector alone. Like it's got to be the sum of all parts. And if I have an opportunity to use my business skills to not only produce a strong business and a strong brand, but make a contribution to a more positive environment, then that's really exciting for me. So when my co-founder and I decided to get into this space, one of the biggest drivers for us is this is something we can feel really good about. We can share with our children, we can share with our friends. No offense, but we're not working for Philip Morris. We're not working in the fast food industry or selling sugar water. We wanted to do something that we felt proud to be part of. And so, again, we felt like, trends aligned in a favorable way for this business to be successful, our skills aligned, and it's something we can feel passionate about. So sometimes a lot of life boils down to good timing, and we felt like the timing was perfect for this.
Well, let's dig a little bit deeper into some of the things you said. Explain why Truman's is making a difference.
Yeah, well, if you kind of take a step back and look at the macro view of the industry, there are a lot of ways to clean, but the dominant cleaner type in the industry is ready to use. And what I mean by that is you have a spray bottle sitting on a retail shelf filled with formula. What a lot of people don't realize is that formula is 98% water.
Wow.
So you think about the fact that you're buying a bottle of glass cleaner, for instance. You paid for a bottle that, even though it could be used for years and years, is only going to be used one time. You paid for all of that water to be shipped, packaged, stored, when really what you were trying to get was the cleaning agent. And so there's a tremendous amount of waste, not just in the single-use plastic of the bottle and sprayer, but in the fact that there's an entire supply chain set up to support this wastefulness. Again, these bottles are filled in the factory. They're overpacked so they don't leak or rupture. They're shipped, taken to a distribution center, shipped from there, taken to a retailer. You drive to the retailer. It's a lot of resources expended for something that's really quite simple.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought, there's a better way to do this. Concentrates have been around for a very long time, but they've not been, as I mentioned, there's a lot of ways to clean, but they've not been adopted. And, we looked at all the reasons why. One, we felt like the presentation was inelegant. You have a lot of powders. You have large jugs of concentrate. And, we have a convenience society, admittedly, at least in the US. And it's not intuitive. It's not easy to use. Some people are uncomfortable, touching chemicals or mixing them themselves. And so what happened is they just kind of fell to the wayside, and ready to use cleaners have been the standard for many decades. And we felt like if we could simplify the product offering, we have only 4 non-toxic cleaners for the entire home. We could
Mm-hmm.
simplify the packaging. The concentrate comes pre-mixed. You never have to touch it, measure it, pour it. You simply add water and then insert the sprayer, and it will automatically release. That we combine those elements with a really good customer experience, because again, these brands, their customer is the retailer, not the end user. So we're always available, answering questions on chat, on social media, engaging in just fun, lighthearted banter. If we could combine these elements, that we could really move the needle in the industry and get people comfortable switching from ready to use cleaners to a concentrate based system. And that's really our whole goal. Like, we know we're never going to be 90% of the cleaning industry because it's gigantic. Everybody cleans, every age, every demographic. What we want to do is spur a movement. We want to put enough
Mm-hmm.
pressure on the big cleaning brands to start going in this direction, because that's something that we can look at very proudly and say, remember when nobody used concentrates, and now look where all the focus is being paid. And I think that's really cool. So that's something we're just very excited about.
As you're talking, my mind's going down 2 parallel tracks. One is just the amount of, as you mentioned, resources that have, get used up in shipping and storage and manufacturing. And the other track, the entrepreneurial track in my mind, is kind of walking around my house thinking, what else can I just add water to?
Yeah, no, it's so interesting, because I think with all of Amazon's ambitions and progress with e-commerce, fast shipping, 1-day shipping, they're doing free shipping on like $2 items now. People are
I
starting
know.
people are starting to question, how healthy is this, that I can have 5 different $1 items shipped to me every day of the week. And I think the attention and focus being given to supply chain is actually a very positive thing, because it's easy to look at the cleaning industry and say, well, the single-use bottles are a problem. But when you look at our system, this concentrate cartridge that we send, you can fit on one semi truck what would take 30 semi trucks to ship of a ready-to-use cleaner. And
Wow.
it's needless waste too, because it's not good for the business. It's inefficient for the business. It's not good for the consumer, because they're ultimately paying for that. It's not good for the environment. And so I think the supply chain introspection is important, because it's not just what you see is what you get. There's this whole infrastructure set up behind the scenes that people often haven't thought about. Packaging is another one. What are the packaging materials? Is it overpacked? We have a really interesting model where we simply ship it in a cardboard box that's made of recycled material and is recyclable itself. And the
Mm-hmm.
cartridges are contained in the flap. There's no extra peanuts, foam, packaging material. The instructions are even printed onto the box, so we didn't have to have extra material in there. And then we only ship in cartridge in quantities of four cartridges. So that way we're not sending you, it's a non-perishable item. It really doesn't make sense for us to send you one at a time. So a lot of our decisions were not just how do we reduce plastic waste, but how do we minimize the overall impact of the supply chain? And I think, to segue to your second point, if other industries started doing that, and there has been some progress, and I can definitely note some companies in other spaces that are making progress, it can be this tremendous impact overall, where we're not banking essentially on consumers going out of their way to reduce the supply chain. We're not banking on legislation to make it happen. We're saying businesses can be successful, can be profitable, while doing the right thing by both the consumer and the environment. And I think that's a really cool trend that I think is going to continue.
So let's talk about pricing for a minute. I know sometimes people are reticent to do certain behaviors because, pricing drives behavior. How do your prices compare to current prices of products out there?
Yeah, I think our pricing is very favorable. We sell our cartridges to subscribers for $3.75 a piece, and a cartridge is equal to a 27-ounce bottle of non-toxic biodegradable formula. So typically in the space, what's known as green cleaning. I would say the green cleaners that are non-toxic, depending on where you are in the country, they can run anywhere from $4 to $7, and typically they're going to be in a smaller bottle. And ours ship free to the home too, so there's the value add there. So you can certainly go with a store brand or a brand that maybe can't be used on as many surfaces because of particular ingredient types. We never expected to be the lowest cost on the market, especially being the new kid on the block. But what was important to us was being approachable. We feel like if your brand is set up for a very small segment of the marketplace, then your impact on the environment is ultimately minimal. You have to be accessible to large groups, and certainly when I mentioned big brands going in this direction, they absolutely have the resources to bring prices down if they move to concentrate model, because you think about what they're selling, the price points they're selling at today, and they're shipping that water, they're paying for that water, they're paying for that bottle each time. There are cost advantages, but I think there's also risk, when you're looking at publicly traded companies, in taking a step back financially to do the right thing. And that's why we feel like this had to happen from the outside, and that we can put enough pressure on the industry to go this direction, but that it wouldn't happen willingly.
And I touched on price, but I also want to come at it from a different angle. So, for example, if we use a cleaning product in the house and it smells, let's say of ammonia or bleach or really strong, I kind of feel like from a health perspective, some of the chemicals or some of the products that have been around for many, many years, we only realize later have been detrimental to health. And I think almost like healthy eating, you can either pay now or pay later. And I think cleaning products, some cleaning products fall into those categories too, where if you're using things that are detrimental to your health because they're cheaper, then you're going to pay later from a health perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And we're always, science is always coming up with new developments and identifying long-term trends, but I feel pretty confident to say that, things like ammonia and bleach, they're lung irritants, they're eye irritants. They can be very problematic in certain households, and that's why you see restrictions as to which surfaces they can be used on. So when you think about pricing, one of the paradigms that we try to shift here is it's not just a good value on an individual cleaner basis, but we're telling you that our kitchen cleaner can be used on stainless steel, granite, marble, wood, appliances, glass, cooktop. So if you were buying previously a special granite cleaner, a special appliance cleaner, a cooktop cleaner, there's also savings in just the amount of product that you actually need to use. So it's the dirty secret beyond the fact that it's primarily water of this industry is that you don't really need all of these specialized cleaners. If you're using high quality ingredients, and I tell people this, the only reason we have a cleaner for the kitchen versus a bathroom instead of just one multi-purpose cleaner is because the dirts and soils that you're attacking are different.
Hmm.
Caked on food is going to be different than soap scum. So they are formulated differently, but they're safe. So I could use my kitchen cleaner in the shower if I wanted to. It just may not be as effective on, lime scale or soap scum as the shower cleaner formula is. So it's one of those things when you look at the retail aisle, you take a step back, you say, whoa, this is a bit out of hand. There are sprays, wipes,
It's confusing.
aerosols. It's very confusing. And I think, certain generation types have just grown up with it, and it's the way we've cleaned. I think younger generations are coming in, and it's confusing to them when they're coming into a home for the first time. Okay, what do I actually need? Do I have to have a wood polisher? Does my hardwood floor need something unique? And there's just, it all points back to the fact that the consumer, the customer for big cleaning brands is not the end user. It's the retailer. And so when you have that disconnect, this is what happens. We were shocked when we first launched and we turned live chat on our website at how
Hmm.
much engagement there was from the customer. We thought this was just an unemotional, low interest category. People want to know. They have questions. They want to know what the ingredients are, how we source them, where the products are made, what they can be used on. Are they safe around plants? Are they safe around birds? It's interesting because I just assumed people just bought what they bought, and it's been an eye-opening experience for us, and in a good way, because I think one of the ways that we can win and be successful is by concentrating on the customer. Not just thinking about, okay, what other products can we sell, but what are they really asking about? What do they care about? And how do we tailor our business to support them?
Well, I think it's interesting you mentioned generational because I know people that I've spoken to in the past, when I ask about perhaps laundry detergent or dishwashing liquid, it almost always falls back to, well, that's what my parents used growing up. It's kind of what I'm used to. And I think some of these legacy products have invested so much, time and money and resources into creating that. So I think that, having Trumans around now and being able to perhaps change that conversation that, my parents decided to switch midway, perhaps I should question things differently going forward. I think it's a really important part of the narrative too.
Yeah, that's spot on. I mean, we get comments from customers that are looking for a certain smell because to them that smell signifies clean. And what
Hmm.
that tells you is they grew up in a household that, they used bleach on the toilets. And so to them, when the toilets had that bleach smell, that meant they had just been cleaned and they were clean.
It's like mint
it,
in
it
toothpaste.
Yeah, absolutely. We get trained by our noses, and so I think it will be a shift that happens over time. And large shifts like this generally do take some time, but you're right. I mean, we're seeing it's been fantastic because we're seeing not just adoption from millennials and Gen Z, but we're seeing customers that are in their 50s, 60s, et cetera, that are trying Trumans, and that willingness to try new brands, I'd say, is one of the trends I mentioned in the very beginning of this conversation that we felt like was in our favor.
Hmm.
E-commerce has been democratized to the point where it's very easy to well, maybe not easy is the right word, but you can reach consumers now in a way that you probably couldn't if you were a brand 10 years ago. And so
Hmm.
we are able to reach audiences across different age groups, and because we have different appeals, whether it's a favorable price, a fun brand that is open to talking with its customers, performance, whatever it may be, we're able to convince people to switch, and that's ultimately what we're up against is inaction. When people ask about, well, who are your competitors in the
Right.
space, I say,
Inertia.
yeah, I mean, our competition is people continuing to just clean the way they've always cleaned. So it's been really positive to see the wide range of appeal so far.
I really appreciate the deep dive into Truman's and what you're trying to do. One of the things I like to focus on is the why behind you personally are doing what you're doing. What's driving you to pursue this.
Yeah, I spent 10 years at a company called Big Ass Fans. I don't know if you know the brand.
I'm a fan. I see them in Costco all the
Yeah,
time.
they're
Pun intended.
awesome. It's an awesome company, and the company did things in a very non-traditional way. So it started off entirely business to business, selling big fans to factories, dairy farms, eventually getting into more commercial spaces like schools and churches and restaurants. But all of its sales were direct. And B2B durables don't typically go direct. It's all through distribution. And so again, there's this
Hmm.
disconnect between the person actually using your product and the company that's manufacturing it. This company was totally different, and we had tremendous relationships with our customers. By the time I left the company in 2018, most of the business was coming from existing customers, and these were blue chip Fortune 500 businesses that you just don't do that. You don't sell directly to American Airlines or to GE. It never happened, and the way the company worked was really special because it wasn't just a transactional relationship. We had customer advocates, for instance, that would just call customers and really probe to find out what could have been better about their experience. We were always focused on improving the customer experience before that really became a buzzword. And then we did that on the consumer side as well, which is where I really cut my teeth on direct to consumer. Was launching our first residential fan brand, which grew to 60 or 70 million just in the first few years. And it was largely an assisted sale. It was 70% phone transaction. So again, this was 2012. So it was direct to consumer before that was really a trendy thing. It was more just in our DNA. But what I learned was that if you have a memorable brand, you're not just a me too and following the trends. If you have a product that really works and performs, and if you focus just relentlessly on the customer, that you're going to be very successful. And the business it sold at the end of 2017 for $500 million. And it was such a good first role for me. And it's weird to say it was a first role because I did spend a decade there, but because I learned so much about what can make an seemingly ordinary product like a ceiling fan special. And it's not just the product,
Hmm.
it's all of those things I talked about. And so why I wanted to start Truman's was not because I had some lifelong passion for cleaning. In fact, it's one of those chores I dread, but I do anyways. But it was because I saw a similar industry where it was old incumbent players. There was no innovation on the product side. There was no relationship with the customer. The brands were stale. They were all the same. I saw a lot of parallels, even though that sounds strange to say the ceiling fan industry was just like the cleaning products industry, but it was. And when my co-founder and I really lit on this idea of there are concentrate delivery systems that can work well commercially. So think about, again, restaurants, fast casual restaurants, employees there don't want to touch chemicals. They're not comfortable. So, we observed a tremendous amount of innovation happening on that side of the cleaning business. We thought we can do the
Hmm.
same thing for consumers. We can apply these lessons that we've learned about, taking an innovative, simple to understand product that just works. Having a fun, lighthearted brand, that's a big part of who we are. And, I mentioned live chat, but it's not just a chat bot. It's not somebody, overseas that doesn't understand our brand, our company. These are people that live it every day and try to have fun with these conversations. And then it's really this, undying focus on what do our customers care about? What are they asking for? And now we're in the early stage of that because we've only had customers for 7 months. But I can tell you where we're going as a business is being largely driven by what we're hearing from our customers. That to me is the most fun. I mean, I don't want to be in one of those. So when you ask why did you do this? What was your personal driver? I don't want to be one of those guys in a boardroom theorizing all day about what do we need to do next? How are we going to gain share? Like, totally not interesting to me. What is interesting is building something new, but building it for an audience that has been deprived of it so far, and then continuing to build the business off the back of that relationship that you have with that customer. That to me is really special and really what keeps me energized.
And I know you've mentioned before, also from a resource perspective, you know, a lighter environmental footprint.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's, you know, big ass fans, to go back to that, had a product that could reduce heating and air costs by 30%. So again, you think about this, we're able to make a profit.
That is tremendous.
Yeah, we're able to make a profit on a product. We're able to reduce our customers' operating expenses, increase their productivity, have a happier workforce, improve air quality, all these great benefits. And then for the environment, it's a positive thing too, because we're using less resources, forced heating and air specifically, to keep people comfortable. So that was a business that every day I woke up feeling good about what we were doing, because it was having an impact on the environment, but also a positive impact for all stakeholders. This is no different to me. I feel like it's a business where, we can grow, and we are a for-profit company. We are exploring B Corp status, but we're not a nonprofit. But I think that these types of businesses and startups can be aligned with all stakeholders, to where we're producing a superior product that works well for our customers and has a positive environmental impact. And so, whether it was environmental impact or a health impact or just overall wellness, like whatever it may be, that aspect is important to me, because I want to know that what I'm doing is a net positive for society. Otherwise, it at least for me, it would be very demotivating to know that what I'm doing is at best neutral. You want to be able, especially when you have kids, right? You want to be able to tell them stories about what you do and why you do it, and
So
and
agree.
you want them to be proud of what you're working on. So, that was a big motivating factor for me.
How old are your kids?
So I have a 7.5-year-old son and a newly 5-year-old daughter.
So we're in a similar boat. I have a 7-year-old, 9-year-old, and 11-year-old, all girls.
Oh
And
boy.
to your point, I love the idea of going home and telling them, we're working on products to make the world better for you. They may not understand right now, but as they get older, they'll kind of understand, the commitment that you and I both made into having careers that were meaningful both to us and to them.
Yeah, totally. And like I said at the beginning, they are inheriting any mess that we leave behind. and and so
Hmm.
in good conscience, it's tough to imagine doing something that was a negative, to the environment, or the culture and society that they're going to inherit. And I think your kids for sure, and my kids as well, are coming to the age where they start to understand that there are more people in the world than just them, and that it takes a village to create change and create positive change. And so as they start to get this sense of the greater good, I think it is important for them to see role models, especially their parents, or the OG role models, doing
Absolutely.
something to make that happen.
Absolutely. Well, switching gears a little bit, I like to ask if there's, a piece of advice that you could share with the audience, what would it be?
Yeah, I love that question. And there are so many pieces of advice that have helped mold my career that it is hard to pick one. But one that I feel like is almost universally applied is always just asking why. It's that curiosity that I feel like trumps intelligence, any day of the week. If you're interested in why, you can typically find a better way to do things. With the cleaning example, for instance, just asking, why are there so many different types of cleaners? Why are they shipped this way? Like it's probably easier to assume that, well, these companies have figured it out. They've been doing it for a really long time. Like there's no point in
It's
questioning
always
it.
been done that way.
Yeah, and I think we see a lot of reinvention happening nowadays, which is a positive thing, because companies, industries in general, they get stuck. They get, trends outside of the industry change that impact them, and they don't change with it for any number of reasons. But I think that stasis is an opportunity, for people if they're looking to, whether it's I want to be an entrepreneur, or I want to go find a company where I can go make a difference. Like asking those why questions will really, I think, inspire you to pursue something. And yeah, I mean, it's just a natural curiosity is going to be your best ally.
I totally agree. I tell my kids all the time, one of my driving forces is that I'm insatiably curious. So curious about
Yeah, it's
everything.
great. And kids, they have that. And I don't know what it is about us as adults. We tend to, if it's complacency or just we're know-it-alls, we tend to be a little bit less curious than our children. But
I think it's fear too.
yeah, no, that's very true.
I think it's fear of not knowing what you're doing.
Yeah, nobody wants to look like an idiot. And if you're in the room and you're afraid to ask why, I get that. It can be that can be a bit of a challenge. And I guess I had very good mentors and colleagues as I was coming up early in my career who encouraged me to speak out and almost use your lack of knowledge on a subject to your advantage because you're looking at it with no bias, no
You don't know
history.
the constraints.
Exactly. And I think those people, and you want to, as you're doing your own thing, you want to surround yourself with people that ask why too, because it really challenges your thinking. And it's just a hard thing to do. But I think you're absolutely right. I think there is a fear of sounding dumb or, of being rejected. And that's just something you really have to focus on is remembering that it's okay not to be the smartest guy in the room all the time.
I absolutely agree. Well, Alex, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much for your time
Oh,
today.
my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And I look forward to catching up with you again soon and seeing the progress of Truman's.
That sounds great. Thank you so much.